I'm Volker Hirsch. I'm a technology entrepreneur and investor and occasional speaker. And did a keynote on what's next in AI.
Okay, so beginning with that, how was your experience of that session and how much you're enjoying Climb26?
I love it. I mean, first of all, I'm trying to be supportive of it because we definitely need to create watering holes, so to speak, in technology outside London. I spend, on work purposes, a ton of time over the last 15 years or so in the Bay Area and in London and so on and so forth. We have the talent up here. We do not yet have as established ecosystems, and something like Climb helps build these. So, yeah, it's good.
And how important is it to recognise that there is the talent here, and there is the willing here, and then to back it up by actually creating events like this?
Well, I mean, there's two things to look at this, right? So when you have startups trying to raise money in the north, and they go, there's no good investors here, which often is true. If you travel from downtown San Francisco down to Cupertino or so, in traffic, that usually takes you 2 hours, which is roughly the same amount of time it takes you by train to go to London, so why the fuck don't you? And then having said this, and this is why things like Climb are important, if I'm a London-based investor, I know on paper, on data, that there is talent and there are startups and there is things in Leeds, in Manchester, in God knows where, but I don't know how to find them. So I need these lighthouses like Climb, so to speak, because then I can go, okay, I know in these 2 days, I'm probably going to meet a couple of interesting people, so let me go, right? It is this whole, there's no life north of Watford thing. Northern founders often are scared to go to London because they don't know how and where to find these people. The same is true for the opposite. If someone in London, they know, well, I know there's a big fintech scene in Leeds, and then they step out at Leeds train station, and now what? They don't even know what Nexus is, for instance. And for that, these things are important, and I'm glad they happen.
And have you learned that are there differences with the people that you meet here in the north? What's your experience so far with founders and northern-based investors who want to come here and invest?
I don't live in London. I live in Macclesfield.
So there you go.
So northern.
So what's the difference between London and the north, or is it just the fact that there's not the connection that needs to be there?
So 15 years ago or so, there was a big difference. It was founders in London, they were more on it, they were better prepared, etc. And then in the north, not so much. So it was something like 10 years ago, we founded a thing called Tech North Advocates, which championed the role of technology in the north and meant to serve as a helping hand for whenever someone needed help. And in that group, it's 1,200 people or so, you'll find the former CEO of BT Northwest is an advocate, as is the founder of a tiny little startup that is run by 2 guys and a dog. And 10 years ago, this was necessary. It was important to open that, to just allow people to make these connections, to help one another, etc. And I think both Manchester, Leeds, to an extent Sheffield, are now starting to build these networks themselves. And as a consequence, if you now walk around, and I have founders pitching me, there is not much difference anymore between how a founder from Leeds would do it versus a founder from London. So there has been a lot of catching up on that.
And do you see innovation in the north maybe doing things slightly differently from the way they do down south and trying to find ways to do things better?
I don't know. And I think, frankly, the north needs to get off that horse. We won't beat London. London is a global metropolis, and you know, is one of the largest hubs of capital in the world, we won't beat it. We don't have to beat it. You know, and it's this whole thing, oh, you should do this in Manchester or in Leeds or in whatever because we do things differently. No, who cares? It's, you know, what matters is, do you build well? The North, it's a bit cheaper, people are a bit nicer, the pies are better, all that sort of stuff. That's great, but that will not make someone make that decision. Money does. So you know, some of the early successes Manchester had was people looking at London and London rents and all that sort of stuff, and they thought, well, Manchester might not be cheap, but it's like half what it is to live in London. So let me build my startup in Manchester. And so in that respect, they need to know that, you know, our places here in the North are places where you can build stuff in just the same way you could do it anywhere in the world. Most of the London tech scene always thought I was living in London. You know, because I would be, pre-COVID, I would be in London a day or two a week, and then I'd take the last fast train back home. There's only an hour 40 into Macclesfield. So I would also be at the evening event. And then they probably thought, well, Volker's an old guy, so he leaves at 9, right? And he probably lives in St Albans or something. That I was living in the North, no one knew. So this thing, we're so different, it has to do with local pride and that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, but on that, is there a necessity to do things slightly differently simply because of London, or is it just money is money at the end of the day?
I don't think so. It's what we do. Well, some northern investors need to do something different. They need to stop fleecing founders. So some funds up here, because money is a little scarcer here than it is in London, they offer terms they would never get away with in London. And they are sometimes outright predatory. You know, the streets of the North are plastered with corpses of one specific investor, fund, who are just not helpful to the ecosystem. And I think they're shooting themselves in the foot because, you know, that behavior means that you give less opportunity for winners, plus the winners almost certainly will not raise from them because word gets round. And so higher density and better behavior from investors would serve us well.
But at events like this, where you're creating that kind of community, where you can get that message out there to people who are maybe naive about the way this works and the way London works, or maybe the way the North works, as you say, there's a message that needs to get out there that things.
You know, this has to do with experience and knowing, right? And so, in that respect, so to an extent, AI has been a leveler on that, because now I get a term sheet from someone, I feed it into Claude, and I say, analyze this, and you know, tell me from a founder perspective, is this good, bad, ugly, and what would you do differently? Couldn't do that before. You know, I had for years and years and years, when I would be on a stage and talk about fundraising and that sort of stuff, I would ask people to raise their hand if they knew the business model of a VC. And in every room, and this is true for San Francisco, for London, for here, for anywhere, maybe 6, 7 hands go up. And I'm thinking, you know, as founders, you try to understand your customer. This is what you live and breathe and die for. And for that fleeting moment when you raise money, your customer, in inverted commas, is a VC. So how on earth don't you know your customer? You know, Google it, fuck's sake. There's a really great book called Venture Deals, and that kind of like translates that whole weird language of venture and terms. AI reads that book in a second, so if I now go to Claude and prompt it reasonably well, I will now know that I should not take Maven Capital's money.
Well, I could go on forever on this. A fascinating chat, and again, the idea that there's people like yourself on stage giving these kind of talks, people are learning, and education
hopefully
is absolutely an event like this. People need to learn. They might think they've cracked it because the business is going well, but there's always more to learn.
The good ones know that they always have to learn.